And because of that, my portfolio, my work, when somebody looks at it, I feel like they know what to expect now. And so it helps the client who's hiring me sort of envision they're looking for, what it might look like in the end, because they have a pretty good idea of what my style is.
Welcome to Color Me Crazy, a podcast where we dive into the creative world of art. I'm your host, Akay, a multidisciplinary artist. And today we have an amazing artist. I'm honored to welcome Laihha Organna, to the artist behind LOINDAFLOW, based in Maui, Hawaii. Laihha blends the surf culture, the punk rock, and bold, edgy designs into her signature artwork. Known for her unique style, featuring skeletons, mermaids, tropical scenes, and cool tone color palettes. She has worked with brands like Carver Skateboards, Akay, and many others to create everything from skateboards and surf fins to album covers, t-shirts, and so much more. Welcome, Laihha, to the podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yes. So I want to get to know a little bit about your roots and how did all started. Did you study arts or something in between?
Yeah, I never went to school for art. I actually think I only took one art class growing up. I've just always been drawing my whole life, just kind of had a knack for creativity. Some people would say maybe it's genetic. I'm not sure if that's true, but my dad's side of the family is all creatives. My dad was a tattoo artist for his whole life. And on that side, cousins, grandmas, everyone kind of did something, whether it was like quilting or painting, drawing, tattooing. So I would say I was just introduced to art at a really young age, and maybe that sparked my interest. So I actually didn't expect to be a professional artist. I went to college for something totally different. I kind of stumbled into this field accidentally, but I'm very happy that I'm here.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you are from Hawaii, from Maui?
I'm not from here. I'm actually from Oregon. So I was born in Portland, grew up in Central Oregon, always spent a lot of time outdoors. And yeah, my roots are very much there in the mountains.
Yeah.
But I first came to Maui 7 years ago, I believe, for the first time. My old career path, or my former career path, and what I went to school for was sustainability and urban agriculture and farming. And then I actually came here on a farming opportunity and, fell in love and kind of grew a little community of friends that felt like family, and the rest is history. So now I'm here, but I'm from Oregon originally.
That's so cool. I feel like sometimes like paths are just meant to be, like it's super, super nice.
Mm-hmm.
And how did like living in Hawaii, influence your art, with the themes that you explore? I mean, I guess you started surfing there and then, everything from there.
Yeah, I actually learned to surf while traveling. I surfed for the first time when I was in Peru, and then I went to Bali and learned a bunch there. And so when I was finally got to Maui and kind of established some roots here, surfing became like a huge part of my life, like a, daily practice for me. And I think it really got me back into art in a way. I was always drawing for my whole life, but after college or through university, it just wasn't a huge priority. I didn't have a ton of time for it. But through, graduating, having a little bit more free time and being exposed to so much more like art and culture, and just doing things that really inspire me, it really got me back into art. And I think surfing plays a huge part in that. Obviously, from, the things that I draw about, you can tell I pull a bunch of inspiration from that. And I think that was sort of a turning point in my, as my turning point in my journey as an artist, was thinking, what could I draw about every single day? And surfing is the one thing that's just always on my mind. And so it shows up in my art all the time.
I love how you incorporate like skeletons into your designs. Is there something powerful about them? I think, there's like a saying, surf till you die or something, skate, surf or die. And mentality, like, is there a deeper like meaning behind it?
Yeah, there's deeper meanings, and then there's more just like fun meanings. Like, there's a lot of reasons that I choose skeletons as my subject matter most of the time. I have been drawing them forever. Before I ever found digital illustration, I was just in high school drawing with charcoal and ink. I was always drawing really creepy stuff. My art is a lot more like vibrant and colorful now, but there's always been that edge and that like a little bit of weird. And I like love punk music. And so there's just this like edginess to me and to my art that I really think skeletons like nails for me. So I just always like love drawing them. I think they're so fun. But I also love drawing them just because it's not, any one person. I think everyone can relate to the skeleton character. So when somebody stumbles upon my art, it doesn't matter like what their background is, how old they are, their gender, where they live, nothing. We're all just like bones under this like flesh suit that we wear. I just think that's really cool that, if it's cool to like give them a little bit of a persona sometimes too. Like I'll dress them up in clothes or give them different hair or whatever. But at the end of the day, when somebody like comes and they see my art and whoever they might be, they could see themselves in it. And I think that's really cool.
That's such a beautiful way to put it,
Yeah.
It's crazy that, I mean, well, in Mexico, we have the also like kind of like the skulls and the skeleton a lot, like in the Day of the Death, El Día de Muertos and all of this. I feel like it's really implemented also in our culture. How did the experience, shape the way you approach both the creative process and your business, Because I bet at the beginning you started like drawing, and then how was the process to being like a full-time illustrator, artist, designer?
Yeah, it was a big like learning curve for me. And let me backtrack a little bit. So I was in school, had my life set up to be doing something totally different. I thought for sure I was going to keep working in higher education or at nonprofits. And I did a lot of those jobs for a while. And then the pandemic hit. I realized that I could do digital drawings. It was very new to me. I had a lot of downtime, a lot of alone time and solitude, and that's kind of what got me through that time. So I was drawing all day, every day, and just sharing them, and it gained a lot of traction and attention, and people were like, this is really cool, And even growing up, I had people tell me when I would do my drawings or paintings, hey, you could do that as a job someday. And I always just kind of wrote it off as like, no way, I saw my dad, making it as a tattoo artist and paving his way the best that he could, but he lived a life with a lot of struggles and pain. And I kind of associated, art with that, I think, as a kid. And he was very like stubborn in his pursuit to be an artist. He refused to do anything else. And I saw him just like struggle through that. And I didn't want to experience that struggle. And I had this idea in my mind that, becoming an artist wasn't a possibility. You're going to go to school and you're going to do something else.
Yeah.
But I still always had very strong values of, I'm going to do something that I enjoy and I'm going to do something that matters and that I care about. So when I went to school for sustainability, I was like so passionate about that. And I still am. And I loved my classes. I loved all my jobs and internships and opportunities. Like it definitely fueled me. But I found myself in all of the roles that I had and everything I was doing. I always put myself in a position where I was doing the most creative thing. So whether that was creating maps of different garden spaces around Portland, or, creating the signage, or designing lesson plans and presentations, I always found myself being the one who could do the most creative part of something. And I kind of at some point had to just acknowledge, like, I really am kind of an artist. Like, I never used that word before. I feel like when an artist uses the word, I'm an artist, kind of like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of us have that tipping point where we finally say it. And, wow, that feels good. And
yeah.
That's kind of a long tangent, but through the pandemic, I got a lot more into art. It was just, there wasn't sort of I'm going to make this my job. It was just, I was doing it a lot, and people were starting to ask questions and maybe wanted me to do things for them here and there. And especially working, kind of remotely and all of that, there was less human connection, and it was just art, art, art. At the end of the day, it was, I just was working and constantly thinking about what I wanted to draw next. And I would like clock out of my job that I was already on my computer all day for, and then just start drawing all day.
Yeah.
And it became kind of hard to focus on work because all I wanted to do was draw. And that was sort of a point where I was like, okay, I think I do want to do this professionally. And I was working at a nonprofit here on Maui, and I was teaching kids about entrepreneurship and coordinating a program for youth, and we were doing art with them too. I was helping them design different things, and we were doing laser engraving. So we had cutting boards, posters, all kinds of things. And these were young kids, like 10, 11, 12. and I'm teaching them how to design things and then turn them into products, and we go sell them at markets. It was really fun, and it kind of inspired me of, I was like teaching them these things, but also learning them. I say that. Yeah. That was cute. I was learning through them that I think I wanted to step into that role a little bit more myself too. And at this time, I was just posting my drawings every single day. I'm not much of a perfectionist either. I was just make something and put it out there. And I think that really worked to my benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to gain some traction on social media at the same time that the nonprofit let me know, hey, we might not have enough grant funding to keep you for another year. So it was kind of this tipping point of, okay, I need to commit to this now and build something for myself in case my employment, isn't going to be stable in the future. And I just feel like that was kind of, what's the word, like synchronistic. The timing of it all is like, okay, you're probably going to lose your job, just pour everything into art. And so it was a very natural transition for me. I gained a lot more traction at the same time that I was going to be likely losing my job. And along with that came so many things to learn. Sorry. My cat just really wants to hang out.
To be in the podcast.
Yeah.
It's so cute.
That was a bit of a distraction. What I was saying, this is all probably too long for the question that you asked. I feel like I'm probably getting away from the question.
No, but I feel like it's beautiful to see the story behind, because like, the person that you are and the artist that you are today is because of all of that story, and it's beautiful to see like the background, the roots, where did you come from? Like working with those kids, like really open you eyes, because like also kids have like a different perspective with art. They're just like, do whatever. Yeah. And so, yeah, but
and
keep going.
The kids don't have like all these limiting beliefs that we do either. They're like, why don't you just do this? And I'm like, I wish it was that easy. And then I'm like, well, maybe I need to channel a little bit of that confidence and just do that. You're right. I don't need permission from anybody. But, as things started to pick up and it was like, okay, I'm going to do this. It all happened really fast for me. It was like, okay, your contract at your job is over. You've gained some traction on social media and you're getting a bunch of inquiries. Like, what do we do now? It was figuring out licensing and contracts and how to price. And I did not have it all figured out by any means. I'm still figuring things out. I've only been full-time for almost 3 years now, but I've learned so much just through getting like thrown into it, really.
Yeah.
I always say start before you're ready. And I know I made some mistakes in those early days, but you learn from them and you figure it out as you go. And so that was a huge learning curve for me, but I'm glad that the timing made it so that I had to figure it out and just on the fly and make it work. And I think that worked out to my advantage, but
yeah, like if you never try, you'll never know, like kind of thing,
Exactly.
Just do it. Listen to the kids.
Yes, they know what they're talking about.
Yeah. They're like tiny masters. It's crazy. Is there like any, other artist? I mean, you talked about your dad, that he kind of like inspired you in your work too, but is there like other artists out there or like other family or friends that were very into art?
No, not really. It was very kind of like in a solo pursuit of art. Feel like it was something, or I didn't have like other artist friends at the time, which I think is the coolest part of social media, because once I started, getting, posting my art online and just like putting it out there, it gave me a chance to connect with people who like did similar things and had similar mediums and kind of built a little bit of a community there, which is really nice. But yeah, I always feel like it was kind of the solo journey that I was on. And I know I mentioned that my dad was a tattoo artist and my dad's side of the family was really creative, but I didn't grow up around them really. I was around my dad for a few years when I was little and then off and on. So it's one of those things where it really interests me about the nature versus nurture. And because I grew up, with my mom's side of the family, and my grandmother raised me, and she wasn't everyone's creative, but she wasn't like an artist per se. And so I, got all of these, I don't know if I would call it skills, because I do think that everyone can like practice. I think just the natural love for something, like I really enjoyed it. enough to want to do it all the time and get better at it. A lot like my dad's side of the family, even though I didn't spend time around them and didn't grow up around them. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting thought for me. But yeah, was a little bit kind of on my own, and my own little art was my own little world that I would escape to. And I kind of liked it that way.
Also, like, I mean, Hawaii is such a beautiful, diverse place. Like, how does your local environment like have been like impacting your work? And is there like any like particular aspects of like nature or the culture? Like, I feel like Hawaii's culture is like so beautiful. Like, it has such a beautiful culture. Like, how do you find yourself constantly coming back to like that inspiration?
Yeah, Hawaii has been huge for night art and just art in general. I think it's a lot of there's just a ton of nature here to pull inspiration from, first of all. Like all my colors and different elements, it all is inspired from being here. And it's just, it's so beautiful, and it makes it easy to want to draw, everything. You see something, like I'll be driving home from the gym in the morning and the sun's coming up. And I, drive past the ocean and palm trees, and every morning, that just looks like a painting. That's just crazy. You have to pinch yourself, and it doesn't get old. It's always just epic. Yeah. So there's like an obvious way that it really inspires art, but also just like the lifestyle. I think, coming from the city in Portland and whatnot, everything's a little bit more fast paced, and there's definitely an art community there as well. Here, we're all on island time. Things are a lot slower. I think it encourages you to want to create a little bit more and to make time for the things that you love. People here are a little bit more, she's, okay, side note, she just can't handle when I'm talking. Like, she'll leave me alone, but if I'm talking to my partner or talking on the phone or something, that's when she needs attention. So she can't handle the fact that I'm talking to somebody who's not her. Sorry about that.
No worries. It's so cute. She wants adorable. To be in the podcast.
It's just when like if I'm in a serious conversation with my boyfriend Kai, that's when she's like up in your face, like, why are you talking with your hands? And like, what, like she wants to understand what's going on. Anyways, the very like slow and laid back culture here, I think, really forces people to like embrace their creativity and make time for their hobbies. Like, you'll see a lot of people here really making use of their time off, whether it's after work or weekends or early in the mornings. People are out surfing or fishing, or they're on the beach. And I don't know, it's just like a really beautiful thing to slow down. I think that encourages a lot more art as well. And then there's just, art is more appreciated here. It's just so nice to be somewhere where there's such a rich culture. And if you drive like downtown Wailuku, there's like murals all over. And I don't know, I just think that art is just really celebrated here, and it makes it a great place to be, to want to make more art. You're out and about, and whether it's nature or, art that somebody's made, there's something everywhere that makes you want to go home and start creating for yourself. So it's definitely been good for me and my creativity.
I don't know if you still have your school bus studio, but I want to talk about that because it's so cool. End up your studio, and like, how did you find this bus?
Yeah, so I do not have the bus anymore. We just moved in October, so it's been several months now, but we moved into a new place, and me and my boyfriend Kai, we each have our own like kind of home office areas in the house now, which is more ideal for me at the moment. Like, I'm really happy to be in here. I do miss the bus sometimes. It was kind of a cool, just like unique studio space, but I had the bus for a couple of years. I was living with my friends on my friend's property, and she had lots of land, and I had, like a pretty small bedroom, and I was thinking, man, like I really need a creative space, nothing crazy, nothing big. And I was looking at different places to like rent a studio, and studio rent is really expensive, it can be, different spots, like $600 a month or $1,000 a month. And I was like, okay, that's not like gonna work for me. Or there were just limited ones. I'd go tour different, spots to rent, and there was no natural sunlight, or it was noisy, it was just like not ideal. Nothing came to me that was going to work. And so I was thinking about it, and I was like, I don't know. I was on Facebook one day and I saw this bus. I was like, that could work. And I it's a little bit more of an investment up front, but then you think about how much you've spent in like studio rent over the course of a couple of years and it really adds up. And then the bus is an asset that you can sell. But it was so fun to just like take on that project. My boyfriend helped me a lot and we, took out the bus seats and it wasn't like a full conversion like somebody would do to live in. It was a lot more simple, but it was so cool. We put in like nice bamboo flooring and I got to paint the inside of some areas of it like a really warm green color. I wanted it to be a space that would like really enhance my creativity. And I love warm tones. So like the bamboo floor and the warm greens, and got to like build my desks out of butcher block top and stain them with nice, like rich, warm colors. And so it all came together as this space. It was like just, really helped my creativity, made me feel like I was in like a cozy, warm zone. I don't know. Everybody has their own preferences for what they like to create in. And I love those like Hawai'i warm tones. So that was really, really fun. And I, spent hours in there every single day. And it was, 360 windows, which is like all natural lighting. It was so nice. And it was a short bus. It was like just over 100 square feet, I think. Maybe, I'm not sure of the exact square footage, but it was a decent size. It was bigger than my bedroom that I had at the time. And it was just really awesome, super cool era. And I think as you grow and evolve, your needs change. And it was like bittersweet to sell the bus and, have to like close that chapter. But it's something that I'll always remember. And I can't wait to like, I don't know, tell my kids in the future, like, I had a bus and I was my art studio. And it was really, really cool.
Yeah, it's such a good idea, and also I feel like as an artist, I mean, you're producing and maybe you're working a lot on digital and, natural light is so nice, to work around like natural light. I mean, I feel like for everybody working in an office, you kind of want to be close to a window, like, but
it felt like I was
so
outside, Like it didn't really feel like I was inside. It felt like I was in a covered porch or something. I don't know. And then you could put all the windows down and the breeze would come through. And it was really good. Definitely, it's hard to be inside, hard to be on a screen all day. And my studio now is bigger, which is really nice. And it also has like windows on each side. And I have like the sliding glass door right here out to the backyard. So I'm grateful that I still have like a lot of natural light and still feel like close to nature.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I was gonna ask, did the bus like get warm? Because I mean, Hawaii. Yes.
So we luckily where I lived was like an area where Maui's really windy, but the area where we lived was like a newer neighborhood. There wasn't a lot of trees or anything to block the wind quite yet. So the wind would just like funnel through that property like crazy. So it kept it pretty cool. A bus is like a big metal box, so it definitely like heats up, but we had enough breeze to where it would be okay. And then I also had like a kind of a plug-in air conditioner that I would put in there so that later in the day when it got a bit hotter, I would turn that on. But that was the hardest part of the bus. I feel like if I had all the windows down, and it was breezy, then it was like loud for recording anything, which is like a huge part of being an artist, whether we like it or not. And, or just calls and stuff like that too is always a bit hard. So there was, I think people look at the bus like, that's so cool. And it was really cool. But there was a few things that was like really hard. Like it's so nice to be in a like shaded studio space. It still has all that natural light, but I have like an overhead fan and it's so much cooler.
Yeah.
So that was, not something that made it so that I couldn't have the bus, but it definitely made it challenging at times because most of the time we have that strong wind, but there are days where we just have no wind, and some of those days there's not very many, but there's some days during the year that we don't get any wind, and I just couldn't be in there. But the good thing is that when there's no wind, all you want to do is surf anyways. Go surf and not work.
That's perfect. Great combination. It was like meant to be,
Mm-hmm.
And do you always work digitally, or do you start like analog techniques like sketches and then move digital, or like combination of both, or like how does it work?
Yeah, I am primarily digital, and that's mostly because I really do love like a lot of the built-in sketching pencil like brushes that they've developed. But I will still sketch on paper sometimes to get my ideas out, and then snap some photos of those or kind of like redo the sketch digitally. Sometimes I think it's really nice to take a break from the iPad and the computer and just like draw on paper. But a lot of times when I do that, it's just like for me and not anybody else. Like if I'm presenting a sketch to a client, I'll sketch something up digitally as neat as I can to sort of for presentation reasons, but for my own just like creative process, it's definitely nice to just like sketch in a sketchbook every once in a while. And that's something I want to prioritize doing more. I think it's so good just for your brain and give your eyes a break too. You know, we look at these screens all the time, but I do love digital illustration and drawing, and I really love using my tablet, and I love all the features that make it feel closer to like pencil and paper. It's really cool how far that we've come in that way. And I love that you can, you know, go back and erase and do things that you wouldn't normally get to do. It just like opens up so much more creativity. But yeah, just pencil and paper feels really good sometimes. And forget that that's like where I came from. I never even touched an iPad till, 4 years ago or something. So 4 or 5 years ago. So it feels like I'm like hanging out with the younger version of me when I sit down with pen and paper. So try to do that.
Yeah. And how do you balance like your style when you work with a brand now? Like how do you balance your style with the brand's vision? I feel like that's a bit of a challenge sometimes, as an artist.
Yeah, it is a challenge. I think it's gotten easier for me in the last couple of years than it did at the start, mostly because my style's become a lot more consistent. I think the longer you're making art and you find like a subject matter that you love, the more cohesive everything becomes. And because of that, my portfolio, my work, when somebody looks at it, I feel like they know what to expect now. And so it helps the client who's hiring me sort of envision what they're looking for, what it might look like in the end, because they have a pretty good idea of what my style is. Whereas when I first started, is a little bit more all over the place, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's a huge part in the discovery process. So I think that the messaging could have been like a little bit more confusing for people looking to hire me, not kind of knowing what they're going to get. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's cool when you can be able to take somebody's vision and create anything, but I'm really focused in my kind of like journey as an artist on becoming really known for specific look and a specific techniques that I use. And so in that, I try to get more and more cohesive all the time and really using like the same colors over and over again, because I'm creating art that I want to create more of and that I want to get hired for. So I feel like it's pretty clear, but I love when the client comes to me with a concept that I wouldn't draw on my own. I think it opens up so many opportunities to get creative in a way that you wouldn't. And I think creative restraint is like huge. Sometimes when you have creative block, like coming up with a fake client prompt even for yourself, or having somebody give you one, or if you're getting hired for a project and they say, hey, we need, it's for this and we need this included, specific element, these are our brand colors, it forces you to make changes, which opens up doors that you wouldn't normally do. So maybe somebody asks me to draw something that I've never drawn before, and then I find that I really like it and I like the way it turns out. Maybe one of those elements becomes a recurring piece in my art. So it's definitely a balance, but there are times when, you kind of have to communicate. It's our job to communicate with clients too, like, hey, that's a little out of what I would normally do. And it's okay to say no sometimes or bring up suggestions. I think it's our responsibility to do that. So what's helped me in that process is just asking a lot of questions before a project to really get a good idea of what they're looking for. I've learned that the hard way. Sometimes I've had projects where we get halfway through and I'm like, I don't know why they hired me for this. This is like not what I do at all. I don't know how they like looked at my art and then asked me to do this. It like doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But that happens less and less the more I continue on, because I've gotten better at like really understanding a client's, prompt or, whatever concept that they have in mind, and asking enough questions and having them show me pictures of my art that they're drawn to and what they like about it. And like sometimes people have a hard time communicating what it is that their vision is.
Yeah.
And so it's all about asking the right questions and like showing them things and asking, hey, what do you think about this? Do you like the way I drew? Like, I draw palm trees in like 3 or 4 different ways, and I kind of alternate, and so, or, some of the waves that I'll draw them differently depending on what art piece they're going in, and really asking them, like, what do you think about this style and this style? And it's a lot more work up front in terms of just communication, but then it makes the creative process so much better. And it's easier to understand their vision and mine. But yes, sometimes there are client prompts that are a little outside of my style and what I normally would do, but I think that's a cool opportunity to like try something new, and I try to embrace it when it comes up.
Where have your clients been coming from? Like just like locally, or is it like word by word, or I don't know, like working with like international brands, or other opportunities have come your way?
Yeah, my clientele has been like all over the place. It's funny, I get asked this question and I want to like pinpoint an area, but it's quite random. Like brands, it's a lot of small brands. Like I've worked with some, bigger companies and stuff. Most of what I do has been, smaller apparel brands or breweries, and that's been really fun. And they're from all over the place, mostly the United States, but other countries as well, across Europe, Australia, New Zealand, areas in South America, all over the place. And my style has so much of an ocean influence. You'd think that it'd be, a lot of them are coastal areas, but there are a lot that are just like, there's so many people just like in the US in the middle of the Midwest or Colorado or in the South or whatever, that aren't necessarily near the ocean, but they still like really enjoy the culture and the lifestyle of it. Like I think people who don't live close to the ocean still feel really inspired by the art. And I found that my clientele, it isn't always coastal areas. It's like all over the place. So that's been really cool. Yeah. And most people find me just, I think, through social media, Instagram. And so that's been like a really awesome tool to get to connect with people like globally and all over the country.
It's amazing, like social media. Like, I don't know, like I feel like I'm so grateful that we live in this era right now. I mean, social media, I mean, if it wasn't because of social media, we wouldn't have been having this conversation. And like, it's crazy. You're one text away from like meeting someone new or having a connection on the other side of the world. I feel like it's amazing to be an artist right now. It's just so cool. So it's crazy that you mentioned like people that don't live in the coast, they have been also worked with you and everything. And it's crazy because I don't live in the coast, and I feel like I'm producing like my inspiration is so much on the coast. And at the beginning, a lot of people were like, why are you producing from the coast? Like, we don't live in the coast. Like these responses from people, I don't think people here in the city would like to buy, your tropical art, and it's crazy that you mentioned that. But yeah, it's crazy that you mentioned that because like, I don't know. I mean, sometimes, as an artist, you're kind of like, am I doing the right thing? You don't have like a line of being an artist, you're just going with the flow and going with your intuition and what your heart dictates. But it's really beautiful that you said that. But yeah, and I mean, you talked about surfing, how surfing influenced your work, but I'm curious, do you also skate? And how this, I mean, I feel like these two worlds like combine like amazing. But yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah, it's funny. So I feel like people love the idea of surf culture as a lifestyle, and that's why people who aren't in coastal areas or who've never surfed in their life like are drawn to it and want these like surf inspired designs. And I feel similarly with the skate culture because I do not skateboard. I surf every day, but I don't skate. I do skate, but I was an inline skater growing up. So different kind of skating. I played hockey and did all of that.
That's amazing.
So I skate, but not like skateboarding. Skateboarding, I want to skateboard. I really feel drawn to it. I'm just like quite injury prone, and I never want to injure myself and like not be able to lift or surf or do like the things that are really important to me. But there's this little voice in me that's like, learn how to skate.
Yeah.
It's similar
Never
to the
too
way
late.
it's similar to the way that people like love surf culture but don't necessarily surf. I just think that like the culture of skateboarding is so cool and rugged, and a lot of my art is kind of inspired by that like 90s skate culture. And as far as like influences go, like when I was younger, like walking into a van store was like the coolest thing for me. I was like, these t-shirts are awesome. These skateboards are awesome. I think
Yeah.
skateboards are one of the coolest canvases to have. I also snowboard a little bit, try to go snowboard each year. And those are all so similar. Like the board riding community is all kind of one together.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy. It's crazy. That's amazing. Yeah, I feel like whatever sport, that has like a board, and your feet attached to it, it's like so different from any other sport, like I feel like and they connect. Like you said, like snowboarding, surfing. And I think I was reading the other day, like snowboarding was born because of surfers, like I think there was like a surfer living in Colorado or something, and then they just like invented, the snowboarding. But it's crazy how they all link somehow. They're riders, the board riders. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. And I was going to ask, do you have like any interest on painting surfboards? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
I haven't done too much. I've done some of my own before using like Posca pens, and had a lot of fun doing that on my own boards. And when I've, done that in the past, I always get a lot of like, oh, it looks so cool. Could you do that for me? And so I think when I do traditional art, I usually do it like on a surfboard or a surf fin or a skateboard deck. I very rarely like paint or draw just like on paper or a canvas. It's always, like a skateboard or something of that nature. We actually have like an old longboard that I've been procrastinating, but I want to like repair it and turn it into a big canvas and draw on it or make some sort of art, maybe even like an abstract thing, which I don't normally do. But when I do traditional art, that is sort of like what I'm called to. And I think they make such cool canvases.
Yeah, definitely. Like the tridimensional, tridimensional. Like
Yes.
just like physically having the canvas. And I feel like also like it's not the traditional way to see art, like the traditional way is just like a canvas square and like,
Yeah.
But yeah, it makes it like, bond so well with your art in general. And how about like you said there was like a bunch of murals, like have you been drawn or ever thought of like painting a mural going big?
I would love to. It's a little bit daunting to think about. I know there's like so many things involved. I've kind of done a mural before for a like boutique here on Maui, kind of like a co-collaborative mural with the owner. It's like sketched on the wall and painted over it. Not necessarily, that was a long time ago, not necessarily in my style, but it was super fun and I would love to. I think it would take, a lot of preparation, but once you kind of get into that world and kind of, master some of the basics, I mean, I've like tried to do my own research and like read up on things and like really, I've been asked to do a couple murals and then things just sort of like fell through, but I do really want to get into working big. I think it'd be so fun. I think I have a hard time visualizing how my style would translate to something big. I have a lot of like fine and intricate line work details, but I do think that your style can like mold to different mediums. Like when I paint, I usually always just paint for me. It's never anything professional. And my painterly style looks a lot different than my digital illustration work. So maybe murals would be a similar case. I'm not sure, but it's something I'm definitely open to exploring in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. You should. I can't wait to see a
Yeah,
mural.
it would be really cool.
A future collaboration, maybe. Who knows? Have you ever? I mean, talking a little bit about surfing. Have you ever surfed in Mexico, or like, do you have any plans?
No, I would love to. That's on my bucket list for sure.
Yeah.
I've never even been to Mexico yet. It's been something
Ah.
I've wanted to do for a long time. There's lots of great surf in Mexico. In Maui, we have our swells during the winter. So right now we have big waves, and in the summer it dies off, and we all get a little bit bored and restless. And that's kind of a good time to go. A lot of people will go to Mexico and surf then. Yeah, I would love to. Hopefully soon.
Yeah. Yeah. Hit me up when you're here.
Awesome. Will do.
Yeah. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, your routine as an artist. Like, how does it look? How do you balance your lifestyle, your artistic career. And I remember, I think it was like a few months ago, I remember you shared a little bit about your routine and how you sometimes also like to work on the weekends. And I don't know, just like putting some work here and there, but could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. Working for yourself, it's nice how flexible it is. And I get asked a lot, like, how do you keep, yourself focused? And if anything, I think when you're working for yourself and working on things that are like for your own future, your own passions, it's easy to like overwork yourself, if anything, rather than not working them.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I like structure. I definitely have like a schedule that I sort of maintain for myself, but with that, I like do not mind, working in the evenings or working on the weekends. If it's something that I like want to be doing, then I have no problem just like getting to work. Or if there's a day when I'm just not there physically, mentally, like it's okay. Like I feel so grateful to be in a position where, working from home and being your own boss, you can just like take the day if you need to. So I'm pretty structured. I, wake up early, and I go to the gym before the sun comes up so that, when it's kind of my creativity and my focused brain is like the best when the sun comes up till like noon or so. So I try to like capitalize on those hours and do things that I really need to be focused on, or some of my drawing work. That, working for yourself is so nice in that, if there's like really good surf, and a lot of times the surf is like a lot better in the morning, then I'm like, it's totally fine. That to me, that's like what matters the most. When this might sound kind of morbid, but like when I'm on my deathbed someday, I'm gonna remember like all the epic like waves that we caught and like memories in the ocean and outside. So I'm still working on it, but I try to just like let go and like remind myself, Leia, just go surf. It's okay. So like, some mornings that, we'll go surf and then come back. And my boyfriend Kai also works for himself, and we're kind of in this like age and space in life where we don't have like, don't have any like children or a mortgage or anything that's like we have to be like extremely responsible for, other than our cat. So we just like, I don't know, try to think of it as like, hey, this is a really good time for us to like go do things that are important to us, whether it's like going and surfing or going on a trip. And it's okay for us to like stay up a little later and like get work done, or like we wake up on the weekends and sometimes we like work, all morning or throughout the day because we just like want to. I think it's okay to just like, if you're obsessed with what you do, just like let yourself be obsessed with it and work. And I don't know, I really like the like flexibility that this lifestyle grants me. And sometimes I got to remind myself to like that it's okay to take a break, and sometimes I got to push myself to get a little bit more done that I would want to. So don't have it all figured out, but I think I have a fairly nice balance.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so cool. I feel like as an artist, that's like amazing. And also like finding a balance, it's really important. I'm also trying to figure that one out. But yeah, because I feel like also art, it doesn't feel like a job for us. And it's just like there's like a line, wait, I need to balance it out, with the world outside and, getting out of the studio. And yeah, but that's amazing. I mean, all this conversation help a lot. I feel like it's helping a lot to other artists out there. But do you have any specific advice that you would like to give younger artists, especially the ones who want to make it like as a full-time artist career,
Yeah, I kind of touched on this before, and it's something I always say when I get asked this question. I just think it's so important, is the whole, start before you're ready. I think most people are extremely critical of their own work. I mean, me included. It's hard being an artist. You look at something you make, and then sometimes it's like early as the next week, you're like, man, I don't like this anymore. But something that isn't quite perfect to you is still like so extraordinary to somebody else, or other people like find meaning in your work that you didn't even intend. Like somebody's relationship to your art is like independent of what you meant for it to be a lot of times. And work that we're critical of, or that maybe we don't think is the best, is like somebody's jam. A drawing, maybe as an example, like maybe a drawing I did a few years ago that I'm like, oh, that's so bad. Somebody will be like, oh, this one drawing reminds me so much of like my grandma, and we have this inside joke, and like that drawing is just like perfect. Like I have it on our wall and we talk about it. Like there's this whole relationship that happens and people really find connection in that. And so I think we like cut ourselves short by like holding all of our work in and not showing anybody or not putting it out there. And I think it's all about like being consistent and showing up and not being too harsh of a perfectionist. And like, same with like putting your process out there and your work and just like showing up all the time and, looking for opportunities before you think you're ready. I think a lot of people think they need this like huge body of like super cohesive work and they need to like nail their style or their niche or something before they're ready to like go full time or like be a real artist. And that is like so not true. You should put everything out there and people will like fall in love with your journey. Like I have people who are like, I've been following you since like the early days when your style looks so different and like you were doing this and I've watched your evolution and it's really cool and they like your art, but they really like you and your journey. And that's what I'm learning is that like it's a personal connection thing. So it's not that your work is not ready and it's not that you're not ready. It's just that you need to put it all out there and like be human and show the messy parts too, because people are going to connect to that the most.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. That's super
It's true.
nice. It's true. And I wanted to ask, like, what's next? Do you have any dream projects or, anything specific? Like, I don't know, maybe doing more physical work or doing some exhibitions or something like that?
Yeah, I feel like I'm still so like early in my art career that there's like so much to do. It's like,
Yeah.
I wish I could clone myself so I can like work on a million things at once. But yeah, a lot of goals, a lot of aspirations, and likely some like things in there that I don't even like know about yet. I just know that there's like bigger things coming and I hope that there is. Definitely have some like dream opportunities. Like I would love to someday like design, like the posters and merch for like one of the big like Hawai'i surf events. I don't know. I think it'd be so cool to do the artwork for like the Pipe Pro and like all these different things and get a little bit more into the surf world in that way. But I also don't want my art to be like locked down to surfing by any means. I think I love drawing about so many things and I think it's cool to work with, different clients on all kinds of products. And I'd love to design more snowboards and skateboards. And I definitely want to do a little bit more traditional art and work on some surfboards some more. But as like an overarching goal, I would love to, I think it's the dream of every artist to just make art that you love and then have it be like licensed from companies to use on different products or like sold as art prints, like having it all start from like my own ideas. I love working with clients and doing collaborations. I think it's super fun, but I think when you get to a point where you can just like make whatever you think is really cool and then turn it into something that like helps support you in that way and moving more into becoming a personal brand of my own as opposed to just like a freelance artist creating art for companies, like having a balance there and becoming something that's like recognizable on its own, like LOINDAFLOW as its own brand is definitely what I hope to like focus on.
To wrap it up, I always ask every artist in the podcast, what is the one thing that you cannot go along without?
Coffee. Coffee
No way.
or surfing. Yeah, being in the ocean and drinking coffee.
Nice. That's crazy. There has been like already like 4 people answering coffee.
Really? Oh, now I just feel like basic, but it's true. I think about it a lot.
Yeah. I feel like it's everybody's like, every day, kind of thing, Yeah.
It's a nice ritual. What about you? I want to know yours.
Nice. Well, mine, it's sunsets. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I cannot go along without them.
I like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think if I lived in the coast, definitely surfing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that would be amazing. But I'm currently skateboarding a lot, if you can see.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. I love it. I love all the boards back there.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Yeah, I'm doing a collaboration with a brand and then just like, I work with the sunlight. So these ones are like transparent ones.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah, so I can't wait to see them like, hanging up in an exhibition that I'm gonna have soon. But yeah, I'm so excited.
That's amazing. That's so cool. Skateboarding is just like super badass. Anyone who skateboards, I'm like, oh, So cool. I want to be like you.
Yeah. But I feel like this is why I wanted to interview you, because like I could relate a lot with your work, even though that we have never talked before. I was like, I need to reach out to this girl, you know. I feel like I got so inspired by her work, and I feel like every artist that works with like surfing and the ocean and, you know, nature in general, like it's just like there's a beautiful connection there. But yeah, and thank you so much for, you know, letting us hear about your story and your journey, and sharing your art with us, the whole background story and stuff. Yeah.
Thank
And
you. This has been so fun.
of course. And hit me up whenever you're in Mexico. I would love to make a collaboration. That would be like so sick. That would be
That would
so
be
sick.
super cool.
Yeah. I'll get us a nice mural in Mexico.
Oh, that would be cool.
In the coast or something. Yeah.
That's awesome. And if you're
Yeah.
ever on Maui, definitely let me know when you're here.
Yeah. Of course. Okay, so we're about to close up. So thank you so much for tuning in into Color Me Crazy. If you guys enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with your friends and leave a comment or a review. And subscribe to our YouTube channel, Akaystreetart, for more inspiring conversations. You'll find Laihha's Instagram in the description, so don't forget to check out her amazing work and, you know, maybe even reach out and follow her journey. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you around. Ciao.